Hello everyone, I'm Morgan, and today I wanted to talk to you about all of my autobi authors. So I've seen quite a few people make this video and I really like those talking about authors. So also I'm going to take this occasion to show you most of the books that I have on my shelves, because most of these authors like comprise my shelves, because I only keep the books that I really like or from authors that I really enjoy, which are definitely these, and also the books that I still have by them that I haven't read. And so right now I would definitely buy any book they come out with and read it. Honestly, not necessarily buy, like there are a few authors that I would not buy all of their books just because I don't love all of their books, but I do want to read them, you know. So what I did is that I put all of these authors in different categories depending on the genre. So first I'm going to start with fantasy and sci-fi, and then I have contemporary YA, literary fiction, historical fiction, and just one that doesn't fit any of these categories. So first of all, for fantasy, I have Seanan McGuire, who wrote Middle Game, which was my favorite book of last year, and I still hold by that. And I also have read the first two books in the Wayward Children series, which were Every Heart a Doorway and Diamond, Sticks and Bones, and I'm currently reading the third one. And I really want to read every single book Seanan McGuire has written, but she has a lot of a backlist right now already, and she is still coming up with books, which is really nice. She has actually written a sequel to Middle Game, so I'm really excited for that. But she also has another book coming out already, like in a few months. First, there's a story that has a link to Middle Game that is also coming out, because we had some excerpts in the book of a sort of fictional book in the book. And this book has actually been written, Over the Word Wall, I think it's called. So I'm really excited for that and for the sequel. And she has some other projects. She comes up with a lot of books, and I'm really excited for that. She has also written like a dystopia series, I think, with Feed. I think it is about a pandemic. That one is really interesting, and she's also an urban fantasy series. She just has a huge backlist, so I'm really excited to get to that. Then I have Robin Hobb, and I have finally finished the Farseer trilogy, which comprises Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, and Assassin's Quest. And so now I'm going to go through the Matchship series with Ship of Magic, and I love these books so much. The characters and just this world is crazy. The Elderling series is pretty vast, so I have quite a lot of books to go through already, but I'm pretty sure she still has some projects going on, so that's just so exciting. Then obviously in fantasy and sci-fi I have to talk about Samantha Shannon. So I have read The Priory of the Orange Tree by her, as well as the Bone Season series, and that's all she's written as of now. She is writing something about The Priory of the Orange Tree, so like some sort of prequel or sequel. She hasn't announced it fully, and also the fourth book of the Bone Season series is going to come out pretty soon. I have it pre-ordered in a beautiful edition from Waterstones, so I don't actually buy from them very often because they have a pretty heavy fee to send the books, but I really wanted the signed version for no particular reason, so that's exciting. And I know she has quite a lot of ideas, so that's really great. Then for sci-fi, I have first Becky Chambers. So she has written the Wayfarer series, which I've read all of the books so far. So The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, Clothed and Common Orbit, sorry, Record of a Spaceborne Few, and the fourth book is going to come out in 2021. So another amazing book to come out. And she's also written So To Be Thought If Fortunate, which I did really like. So she's just one of my favorite writers at this point. I really like the world in the Wayfarer series. It's just so wholesome and beautiful. and just, I love how I feel when I read these books, and I cannot wait for the fourth one. So yeah, just so many amazing books about to come out. Like, I love that these authors are coming out with new books because I've been waiting for them for quite a while. Then I have Carlos Hernandez, who wrote the Silent Gabby series. I'm not going to talk about them again, but I did really love those, and he's still coming out with books in this series. And he also has an adult book that I haven't read yet, which is a short story collection about time travel, I think, and I still have to read that. I have it on ebook, so I'm going to read that pretty soon, but I know he's still writing books. Then I have Hank Green for sci-fi. He has written An Absolutely Remarkable Thing and A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, so that was a duology, which is now called the Cars duology, but I think he has some more projects in the works, though I'm not really sure. Those were his first 2 books, and I hope he writes more. Now, to go into contemporary YA, I have quite a few authors. The first one is Courtney C. So I have read Dress Code for Small Towns by her, as well as another book, which I can remember the title of right now, but I did listen to it on audiobook earlier this year. And I have The Lies About Truth, which I'm going to read in a few days probably. And she has a few more books I haven't read, like 2 as of now, and she has a new book coming out also next year. But yeah, I have really liked everything I've read by her so far. It's pretty like heartbreaking in a way, but also heartwarming, so that's my jam, I guess, in YA contemporary. And yeah, I guess most of these authors actually write stuff like this. So I have this, then I have Lockhart. I own We Were Lies by her and Fly on the Wall, and I also have her last book on ebook, which I still haven't read, but I really like what she does. I mean, they're pretty easy to go through, like they're really short books, so but so far I've really liked them. Like, they're not very deep, I would say, but I do like this once in a while, especially like Fly on the Wall is really funny, so that was nice. Then I have Markus Zusak, who wrote The Book Thief and I Am the Messenger. He also came out with another book last year, which I do have an audiobook, but I still haven't listened to, because I'm kind of afraid because it hasn't gotten the best ratings. But I have loved both of these 2 books that he has written previously, so I am pretty hopeful, and I guess he has other projects in the works, or at least I hope so, just like with all of these authors. Then I have obviously Angie Thomas. So I only own The Hate You Give by her, but I have read her other book as well that has come out, and she has another book coming out next year, as most of these authors do, which is cool, as I just said. So yeah, I like what she writes about. Obviously she is a Black woman in the US, so we need more voices like hers, and I like the way she writes. She has amazing family dynamics, which I do really enjoy in YA also, so that is always amazing to see. Then I have Alice Oseman. I have Loveless by her that I still haven't read, that just came out, and I've been going through the Heartstopper series. I still have the 3rd one to read, but they're just such a joy to read, like the most heartwarming thing I've ever read, honestly. I really didn't think I would like them, actually, because I mentioned I haven't really read that many graphic novels, but I've been loving these, so that's good. And I also have, Radio Silence somewhere, but I'm too lazy to get it right now. But I also adored Radio Silence last year, so that's one. And I just know I'm always going to read what Alice Oseman comes up with. I'm crazy about her writing, her characters, just everything. And yeah, I don't know, I'm really into that. One author I don't actually own any books by is Elizabeth Acevedo. I have already read all of her books though, but just as audiobooks, because she narrates most of her books. So the last one she did was co-narrated. So she narrated one of the voices and we had another narrator. But all of the other ones she narrated herself completely, and as they were in verse, it was really beautiful. And yeah, I would highly recommend the audiobooks. They're amazing and I love her voice. And she just writes about some voices also that we don't really see, just like Angie Thomas. So obviously like they're bringing more diversity into YA, which is amazing. And just as stories, they're beautiful, like really emotional, and they really show like the coming of age, mostly for young girls, how they are trying to grow up, you know, and different families. So, but I guess Elizabeth Acevedo really talks about some families that are having a lot of issues, whereas Angie Thomas, I mean, the families have issues, but they're pretty close, so it's not as separated, I guess. I don't know, just a thought, but I really like that. Then I have historical fiction that I'm going to talk about first. So I've got Khaled Hosseini, who I really enjoy, and I actually have 2 copies of The Kite Runner because it is one of my favorite books of all time, and when I saw this cover I was just really happy. So it's beautiful and I show it on my shelves always. And another one I really love is A Thousand Splendid Suns. I still have one more book to read by him, though I didn't get it out because I'm stupid, but I have really loved both of these books and I'm hoping he comes out with more pretty soon. I know he has a book that came out a few years ago which was sort of for kids, I guess, but that's not really what I was looking for him. Like, I want more novels, and I hope he writes them. Then I have Seanan McEwan, and I've read like 2 or 3 of his books, but the only one I've really loved so far is On Chesil Beach. All the other ones I've actually gotten out of the library, and that's good, I think, because I really like the way he writes, but I don't love his books, most of them. So I'm really curious about what he writes. So that's what I was talking about, like in the beginning of the video, saying like I don't honestly want to buy every one of these books, and especially for him that's really true. I'm really curious about what he writes, and I'm never like bored, but I don't still love every single one. So I have read this one, I have read, I think it was Nutshell, which is seriously weird and sometimes a bit, I don't know, I didn't love it, just that it was kind of too weird for me, which is hard. Like, I typically love weird books, but this was just too much for me. And I also read his last one, which was, I don't know, about Alan Turing and stuff, about AIs, and that was fine but not great. But I am really into his books, and just for the writing, like that's a really important thing for me. And these books I never struggled to get through. They're just not necessarily always the best, that's fine. Then I have Colson Whitehead, and I also don't own any of his books anymore. So I did used to own The Underground Railroad, but I gave it to one of my friends because I knew I would never read it. Like, I really liked it, but it was kind of depressing a little, so I know that's not the kind of book I want to reread, but it was beautiful, and so was his last book. God, I can't remember names today, I swear. I don't know, the one that came out recently, The Nickel Boys. God, yeah. So I read that one as an audiobook, and it was a pretty good audiobook, so I would recommend that, but I would like to reread it physically, and I mentioned that at the time because literary fiction is just easier as a physical book rather than an audiobook, because it's all about the writing. And also, like, what do I want to say, like, I should stop saying like, seriously. He has quite of a backlist also that I haven't read yet, and I think he has some other things planned, but I'm excited. And then we have literary fiction, and I have a lot of authors in that category because I read all of it. First I have Sally Rooney. So I know she's pretty known to have written Station 11, which is post-apocalyptic, but mostly she writes literary fiction. So I have read so far The Glass Hotel by her, which was her latest release this year, and I also have Last Night in Montreal, which I'm going to read very soon. And she has quite a few books like in her backlist, but not a ton, and I'm pretty sure she's going to write more, so that's always a good thing. Then I have Salman Rushdie, who is probably the author I own the most books by, but I haven't read all of them. So the ones I have read are only these two so far. So I have The Moor's Last Sight and The Golden House. So this is pretty old, I think, and this one came out like a few years ago, and I bought it as soon as it came out. And now I have these 4 that I haven't read. I'm currently reading Quixote, which was his 2019 release, and I have these 3 left after that. I actually bought quite a few of his books because he is one of the authors that I gave 5 stars to last year, and one of my challenge this year is to read more books by these authors and see how many books I can read by them that I give 5 stars. And I actually still haven't read any of his books this year, so I'm pretty late about that challenge, but that's why I'm reading Quixote right now, and also because it was one of my most anticipated reads of last year and I still haven't read it, so I suck. But yeah, I have really loved both of the books that I have read by him, and they're just really good, like about characters, but he does write in a way that is pretty hard to get through at times because it's very much stream of consciousness. So like the phrases that he does are so long, the sentences, and that's kind of hard to get through at times. Like it's really tiring, but I do like it, however. And it also shows me a lot about India, because originally Salman Rushdie is from India, though he has lived a lot of his life also in the US. So I'm just getting to know a lot about Indian culture reading his books, and I do love the way he writes, though it's tiring, as I said. And then I have Claire Fuller, who has written swimming lessons and Bitter Orange that I have read, and I think she has one more book that I haven't read, but I really like both of these. And she also has another book coming out next year, I think, so that's really cool. She writes mostly like literary fiction or historical fiction, that depends, and they're just really atmospheric, I would say, and have some kind of family dynamics, sort of. And Bitter Orange was actually kind of weird, but I liked it. It was sort of gothic in a way, and I quite liked that. Then I have one of my favorite writers, which I talk about all the time, and I own all of his books. So they're all here. I haven't read all of them though. I've only read these 3 so far. So they are Cloud Atlas, Number 9 Dream, and Slate House. And I still have Utopia Avenue, which just came out, and Ghostwritten. Actually, I'm missing one, sorry. Let me grab it. Yeah, so this I have read. So I have also read The Bone Clock, so I have read 4 of his books. Yes, 4. And these 3, so Ghostwritten, Black Swan Green, and The Thousand Autumns of Jacob de Zoet, I still have to read, and they're kind of his older works, I would say. I adore his writing style. It's beautiful, and I guess it's also stream of consciousness, sort of, but I guess his sentences are easier at times than Salman Rushdie's. But I don't know, also the fact that all of his books tie together, so you have sort of Easter eggs, which I've mentioned before. So if you read all of his books, you keep seeing some of the characters come back, and you have that little bit of information more than other readers wouldn't have, though that doesn't mean that you can't read all of his books without having read all of them. It just, yeah, it gives you more of an insight, and that's pretty cool to have. And I adore his writing, and I will read everything he has written and will write in the future, hopefully. It has actually been a few years since he published the book, so I was really happy that he came out with Utopia Avenue, though the only review I've seen so far hasn't been great, so I guess it's part of the reason why I haven't picked it up yet, though mostly I just haven't been in the mood for a big book because I've been reading a few. And yeah, because I keep saying I'm going to read it soon, that I don't, but it's going to happen. I know. Only a few more left. So I have Sally Rooney also. So she has written so far Normal People and Conversations with Friends, which are both amazing books if you ask me. I adore these so much. Her writing style is pretty easy to get through. Different from all of the other ones actually in early fiction. She has a pretty sparse writing style, I would say, and I also really like that. So yeah, it's really cool, and she just has a great way of describing emotions, I think, and creating characters that feel really real. So that's what I loved about her books, and I cannot wait for her to come out with more. She also has a short story, I think, that I haven't read, so I would like to get to that. Then I have another author that I think I've mentioned quite a bit, and it is Ottessa Moshfegh. So I still have one more book to read by her, which is Homesick for Another World, but I have read her other 3 books, which are right here. So My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which is pretty popular, Eileen, which is amazing and less talked about actually, and Death in Her Hands, which is her last release. So I really like her books, but they're seriously weird. I mean, there's also, yeah, another book that I missed, sorry. She also has a novella that I have read, which wasn't the best, but mostly she just writes some character studies of mostly women that are pretty weird, sort of, but they are really interesting. And the way she writes, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a ride, and I don't know, like, these women are kind of weird in a way. Like, I can sort of relate to them, but also sometimes not, but I don't mind. Like, I'm just in for the ride, I guess. It's really fun, and yeah, not really fun, but sort of amusing in a way for me. I guess it's kind of weird because, like, the topics also that it discusses aren't the happiest, but I'm just really enjoying her books. Then also have another of my favorite authors, who is Lockhart. So I have Little Friend by her. The Secret History is one of my favorite books of all time, the beautiful one, and The Goldfinch, which I also really adore. So I wish she would publish more books. I've been waiting. It's been since 2013 that she hasn't published a book, so the last one was The Goldfinch, and it's been too long. Like, seriously, what is she doing? I mean, I don't want to shame anyone, it's just that, like, I really want one more book by her. Her writing style is also stream of consciousness, kind of. She writes books that are quite long, as you can see. Well, actually, The Secret History looks like it's kind of short, but really, like, they're Bible pages, so it's more than 600 pages, but I mean, it's pretty known, so I think you know. But I cannot forget any of the characters in these books. Even The Little Friend, which I like a little bit less, I still really remember, like, vividly. And she just has a way of describing things that gets to me. And she's also one of the writers that I read when I was getting back into reading in 2016 or something. So I guess I read her at the right time, because she really reminded me what I liked about reading and how I could just get sucked in a book. And that's what happened with The Secret History. I read it around the time of Christmas, and I was actually alone in Strasbourg, so my city, because I couldn't see my family because we were going to move very soon, so there was no point in me going there to just come back. And I was just kind of down, and all of these characters in those books were pretty down as well, so I guess we really worked with each other, and I completely lost myself in them, and I loved it. To this day, like, I've reread both The Goldfinch and The Secret History, and they're just as amazing. So I'm still getting so much. Also, like, my English keeps improving, because as you know, English isn't my first language. I am originally French, so every time I read these books I just get more out of them, because the vocabulary is actually pretty, like, high stakes. I don't know, like, it's not the easiest to read, and so the first time I read these books, I guess my level in English wasn't as good, so I got most of it still, like most of the emotions and the gist, but I get more and more every time I read it because of that, and I'm glad I do, because I don't know, it's a great experience to read a book and just get more and more. But I think that was the last one in the literary fiction category. And the last one, last author I wanted to mention is Dan Brown. By Dan Brown, I own Inferno, Origin, and the most popular by him, The Da Vinci Code. And it's not any edition, it's the illustrated edition of Da Vinci Code. And I found this at a charity shop one day, and I was so excited. So, like, you have images of like the paintings and the things that they see during the book. So it's so cool. Like, when you read it, you just get to see so many things. And I just noticed I didn't put the jacket right, so that's fine. But yeah, I'm crazy about Dan Brown's books. Every time he comes out with one, I get it and I read it right away, and I cannot stop until I finish it. I know it's not like the best writer in the world, he's not, but he's also keeps improving, honestly. Like, the first books I read by him were not as good, but the last one, so Origin, is just amazing. And he also makes me want to travel to all of these cities where Robert Langdon goes, so a main character. And yeah, just all of these cities in Europe. Some I've actually been to, and even those I've been to, like, he just makes me see them in another light, and just tells me about the history of the city, which I don't know anything about, and it's really, really cool, and I really enjoy his books. So yeah, but that was the last author I wanted to mention. So yeah, please tell me if you've read any of these authors and what authors are your auto-buys, because I would love to know. I think that's really cool to talk about. So yeah, but that's all for me. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you soon in another video. Goodbye. Dream I know, deep up my feelings.